Yesterday, it was announced that the Deadlock community Discord and Reddit team were going to be hosting an invitational tournament with a prize pool of 10,000 US dollars. The Reddit post that announced it has, at the time of this recording, 1.2 thousand upvotes. So perception seems generally pretty positive there. But as you start to scroll through some of the comments, you do see a number of people who are being critical of this decision. And I figured I would hop on that bandwagon and be critical of this decision as well. Before we get too dug in here, I do want to say that I have no malice towards anybody who's running this sort of thing. I totally understand like why somebody would want to run a tournament and get a bunch of eyes on the game and stuff like that. That's all cool. I get it. I don't think there's any ill intent or ill will, so definitely don't go harass people in my name or anything like that. So when we're running a game tournament, we're testing all of the various different players on their mechanical skill and the strategies that they bring to the table. But the skills that you're testing for are dependent upon the format of the tournament and the current state of the game. And I think the current state of the game is like the biggest thing that hinders this from being an interesting idea to me right now. This should really go without saying, but this current alpha build of this game just does not, it's not ready. It doesn't test for skills that I think are particularly interesting right now. From the little bit I've seen from like the Aurora Deadlock Masters and some of the scrimmages I've seen like from players on YouTube and these top 0.00001% lobbies and all that shit, it seems like they're the most important thing to have to be able to be successful in this type of environment is to have the inside scoop on some sort of mechanical exploit or interaction that is just really hard to engage or fight back or interact with. As an example, when this Aurora Deadlock Masters took place a little bit over a week ago, we were still on the previous patch of the game. And Kelvin was basically a permaban or first pick in every single match. Now, Kelvin has a lot of really good qualities. He's got this big slowing ice ray that can ricochet off of people and slows people by, I think it was up to like 80% in that patch. I can't remember if that's been changed now or not. But the other really big thing about him was the ultimate. It's good for catching people in team fights and locking them down and killing them. It's good for saving your teammates from bad situations. And the really irritating thing about it in the last patch was that you could use it to basically stop the enemy team from being able to interact with you as you take an objective. You could entirely like put a dome around, the Rejuvenator, the, mid boss, whatever you wanted to put it around, a tower, you put it around something and then you would just DPS it down and it would be impossible for the enemy to stop you. They would just watch you from outside the orb and type GG, I guess. That has now been fixed, but now in this new patch, there's not even a new exploit, just like another thing that has been found. So Deathy put out a video, I think also yesterday. It was the most popular video he's ever done so far. Shout out to Deathy, by the way. I'll link that video in the description. But in it, he basically details this sort of funneling strategy. So the way that it works is that before the 10-minute mark of the game, all of the souls that would be acquired from lane minions dying is given equally to all of the players in the lane. So what this means is that if you are in a duo lane as opposed to somebody who is in a solo lane, you're not going to get like half as much farm as them because basically both of the players in that lane are getting full soul value out of every creep that dies, right? However, what people realized was that if you have one player who runs back and forth between two lanes and they catch two waves as they come in, they basically get double the amount of souls that anybody else on the team would be able to have. And Deathy talks about how he and his team have been scrimming, they've been testing a bunch of different variables, and it feels really hard to stop. The best thing that they've found to deal with it is to just do it themselves. There are only particular types of characters that are able to enable this strategy, and just in general, it doesn't feel like a very interesting thing to watch or play, and he just in general doesn't like it. And I would agree. I don't think it's a good direction for the game to go in necessarily. And this isn't to say that like there's no mechanical skill to be shown or leveraged while playing in these tournaments, right? Like it's not like purely a knowledge check, but keep it a buck just from everything that I've seen. Like if you have the inside scoop on something like this, especially this funneling strategy, and you're playing against somebody who doesn't, it's free. Like it's not even close, right now. The format is also a little funny too, where like there have been like websites and utilities built to be able to run drafts for Deadlock. You know, a draft is how you would want to do like a proper ranked or tournament environment. Like I'm aligned there. But I think the reason that there isn't a draft in the game right now is obviously it's just an alpha and that's not really the kind of thing we're testing for. But B, there's like a little over 20 characters in the game and 12 players in any given lobby. So if a draft is about like outmaneuvering your opponents, like making strategic bans, making interesting choices, and finding interactions between all of the different characters, I would argue when half of the roster is in any given match of Deadlock, there just isn't like a lot of space to be making that kind of interesting decision making. It's like, okay, we're gonna ban Kelvin because this dome is incredibly fucked up, and then I'm gonna try to pick Dynamo, I guess, because his ult just wins team fights, and then that's that's like the decision making that we have to do. I think the beef that I have with like the $1,000 tournaments and the 0.001% title and thumbnails and all of this shit is that it sort of gives off this air and this impression that like the high level professional Deadlock scene is like here and ready for you, and it inspires a bunch of people to like want to push and grind for a thing that is like not real. Like we all have to share the one queue together at the moment, right? And if you're somebody who is like trying to push yourself as incredibly hard as possible because you want to be in these invitationals and whatnot, most people don't have like another 5 people that they know that they can like team with. One, they probably don't know another team of 6 people that they could scrimmage with consistently. 2, so they're probably just like queuing into their lobbies, maybe with a friend or 2, and then getting upset that their teammates aren't performing up to their like lofty standards, when like it's an unranked alpha test queue. Like the matchmaking system, they've said it a couple of times, the matchmaking system is still in development. The MMR is entirely hidden. The ways that we used to be able to approximate those MMRs is now gone. We don't have even that ability anymore. So it's just like going into a match serious, very serious, not knowing if I'm in a top level high MMR lobby or an absolute shitter lobby, and then just blasting anybody who is not performing well. I just think it just doesn't make for a good environment for like most of the people that are playing the game. If there was like their own individual ranked queue that like we could go play in, then that would be tight. I mean, I'm down to do that, but again, what are we really testing in that ranked queue? Like, if the alpha build is not in a stable enough like situation, then it's not even like our ratings aren't testing for anything, right? You understand what I'm saying? And just for the sake of clarity, I don't mean stable as in like my game is crashing. I mean like stable as in like every 2 weeks I'm getting like a new mechanic and a significant map overhaul and a character rework. Like that's a lot of shit really frequently, bro. I think really the focus of the community should be on testing the game, pushing it as far as we individually are able to, providing detailed feedback at all levels of play so that they're able to make the game that they want to make. And I mean, the rest of this shit will come. Like, you think we're not going to have like $10,000 tournaments when the game launches? Bro, that's going to be like on the low end. Have you seen the international? It literally just ended. I don't even know what they played for this year, but I know it's like, isn't it like tens of millions of dollars usually? Like, it's going to be an insane amount of money. I saw somebody in that Reddit thread say like, oh, you know, this tournament is a really good opportunity to get the game in front of a new audience of people and get them interested in, you know, onboarded and playing the game. My brother in Christ, the game has like 130,000 people playing it just in the last 24 hours. It's like competing with Grand Theft Auto 5 on Steam player numbers. It just to be clear, you can't go and click download on it. You have to get an invitation from somebody. That's it's not as significant a limiting factor as being like a buy to play game, but it's a pretty significant limiting factor. Like it does throttle it a little bit. And like, am I saying that you as an individual should not be like pushing yourself to be the best player that you can? Absolutely not. If that's how you get enjoyment out of the game, that's how I get enjoyment out of the game. That's perfectly fine. I think the problem comes in when like you are imposing those expectations on to like other people in your lobbies. Like I fall into this trap as well of like, you know, getting into a fight, having like a bad interaction, and then being like, oh man, this guy, if he just did the fucking thing that I wanted him to do, then we would all be alive and we would be winning this game right now. But I have to like stop myself and be like, oh, right, this is literally an alpha. This person might be on like their 6th game ever because I have no idea how this matchmaking works, and MMR is like a fake imaginary number right now. Like it's gonna be okay. The point of this is not to win this match. The point of this is to test the game and to try to become better. I can become a better player whether or not I win this match. Like this match, there's no progression that I can see at all. There's like an imaginary MMR number that is going up in theory, maybe, but I don't know how that system works, and I can't approximate it with any other platform. So like it's out of sight, out of mind. Like there's nothing at stake here other than my free time, which I've conceded to play Deadlock. Like it's okay. It's gonna be fine. And I also think like pushing yourself to be as strong as you can be is like an important angle for feedback, right? Like they need feedback both from people who are like playing the game for like the first 10 times and are still trying to figure everything out and like what their first impressions are. And they need feedback from somebody who has tested literally every single item on every single character and has played 600 matches over the past 3 months and has seen every patch and every change that has been come across the table, right? So, you know, I don't know, but it just feels like ever since this game has entered the public eye, there's been this like insane and in a lot of ways like toxic gold rush to become the next like explosive professional player of this like currently in testing placeholder asset alpha game that we're making up as we go along. You understand what I'm saying? Like, and this isn't like any hate or disrespect towards any of the players that are like in this community at the moment. Like, you know, I'm a big watcher of like Deathy and Piggy and Pushy Pop and, you know, Dead Air, who has run like a bunch of the tournaments, and Michaelis, and, you know, I like all of these people's individual contributions in the form of like videos and educational content and all of that sort of stuff. I'm just particularly critical of like the let's play for thousands of dollars in this game that is being like made up as we go along. Like it just doesn't feel useful to anyone, really. It feels like it influences the rest of the community in a way that I don't think is positive. And I don't think there's like a infrastructure to like make any of this reasonable. Like people are pushing to increase an MMR that they literally cannot see. Isn't that a little bit insane? Isn't that like absurd? I think if you wanted to run like a in-house tournament where the winning team, everybody on it gets $100, I think like that's, you know, that's chill. You want to play a tournament for some Arby's gift cards, like totally, I'm down. But as soon as we start to play for like tens of thousands of dollars in a big Twitch event with invitationals from a bunch of people from other communities, like is this game really like in a position to do this right now? Like we're gonna onboard a whole bunch of people, and then their first impression is going to be of this unfinished like in development alpha game. Like wouldn't we rather do this when the game is like about to launch, so that they see Yamato with like a real character model and abilities with like real, not placeholder assets, and more than one neutral camp model? I don't know. Maybe I'm out of touch. I really don't know. Let me know if I'm out of touch in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, peace.